Morning, everyone. Today's learning is dedicated in memory of Shmuel ben Yosef, Leah bas Feivel, Rabbi Yaakov Tzvi ben David Aryeh, as well as Paul Casimir, Shalom ben Elili, Ben bas Feivel from Moshe Shana bas Yaakov Shmuel, Caleb ben bas Henach, Yimei Achiv ben Moshe Lezer, Samach bas ben Yom Shalom, Yechia ben Yeshua Levi, Abba Mordechai ben Moshe Katna, and Aryeh ben Shimon. Good morning, everyone. So I want to share with you something different rather than ethics of the fathers today. I hope you can see me. Hold on, I think my battery is running low, which is part of the reason for this not working. Bear with me 1 second. So it can have bright. Okay, we're almost there. Apologies. Right. Okay, good morning, everyone. So we are in a period between Pesach and Shavuot, which is called, as you're all familiar with, the Omer, Chodesh Tov Mervin. So it goes as follows, the Omer. And this period has become accepted and known as a period when we are mourning. Why are we mourning? So we are mourning the fact that Rabbi Akiva's 24,000 students died in a mysterious plague during this period. Right? Now, whenever we hear of something like that, we should wonder, it should pique our curiosity, it should trouble us. After all, think about it. It's a tragedy. 24,000 students die. But if we want to, good morning, Joanna. But if we think about all the other tragedies in Jewish history, with the exception of the temple and the 3 weeks of mourning in the summer, we don't, for anyone else's students, we don't for anything else have a period of mourning for 33 days. You know, why was this so significant? So let's try and understand about Rabbi Akiva and about his students. And I thought in the next few days, maybe even weeks, we'll see how far we go, we can share some insights into this period of the Omer, since basically the Ethics of the Fathers, chapter 5, we've finished. So I thought we'd move on to different things. A potpourri. So I want to ask you a question. So I don't know if you've heard of somebody called Winnicott. Winnicott was a brilliant psychotherapist, and he wrote one of his masterful pieces was Playing a Reality, and basically he introduced or was the pioneer in the concept of playing as a part of therapy and as essential to the maturity and the development of a human being. And one of the things that he wrote, I happen to be reading this at the moment, but one of the things that he wrote was that he wrote about about having in children's lives a carer, usually the mother, and he said that he described her as somebody who was a good enough mother. And initially, when I heard that, that sounds quite offensive, doesn't it? Good enough, she's just good enough. And then when I read further, I realized that actually it was quite a compliment what he was saying. What Winnicott was saying was to have firm foundations. You needed a carer, a mother who was good enough, not perfect, but was doing a good enough job around their child to be the carer and to be the support and to be there to facilitate the changes and development of the child. The question is, how do we as Jews how do we feel about that? You know, is good enough good enough? Or is it something in our genes, in our psyche, that good enough is never good enough? I'll ask you a question. I think most of you that are on here, if not all of you, have had kids, and even if they're not at home anymore, you've got, you've brought up kids, you've got grandkids. So I'll ask you a question. If your kid comes home, they say that they got 65%, okay? Alavai, okay? Let's say they get 65%. What's your reaction? What's going through your mind when you hear that? Or your grandchild comes home, they get 65%. What's the first reaction? They got 65%. Do we say, well done, what an achievement? Or do we say, where were you in the class? Do we start making comparisons between one child and their contemporaries? right? Isn't that what we very often, more often than not, that's what we end up doing? There's a tendency, I think, to make comparisons between one child and the other. We'll deal with it, Joe. Don't worry, relax, relax. So, the whole thing that Winnicott's theory is that good enough is good enough. Okay, he says it in regards to a mother, but I think it was very much his theory in terms of life in general, right? And it is to bring up healthy and happy children. Now, what's this got to do with Rebbe Akiva's students in the few minutes that we have? So Rebbe Akiva's students, of course, were trained as anyone who is studying in a yeshiva or in a higher ecclesiastical bastion of education. The whole idea is that they want to become better people. And I guess you can compare it to the SAS, the Navy SEALs. These were the best of the best. These are the best students. And therefore, they prided themselves in that they were excelling. They wanted to be the best. They wanted to plumb the depths and to reach excellence in terms of what was the truth. What did God want from us? And if a person really becomes connected to what one is learning, then you can become wed to your opinion, right? And that's what I believe happened to them. The Talmud tells us that they didn't give, the problem why they all died was because they didn't give the requisite honor and respect to one to another. That doesn't mean they didn't respect each other. That doesn't mean they didn't treat each other in a courteous way. But what happened was, it was in the yeshiva, in the Talmudical Academy, when they were fighting tooth and nail about what was the right thing, what was the truth. Then they were very, very passionate about their own long-held beliefs, their opinions. And when somebody else said something that was opposed to them, rather than coming round the table and looking at things from another person's perspective, they would dismiss it because they were so wed to their own beliefs. Sounds familiar? Resonates with us? That we become entrenched in a certain position because we believe these long-held beliefs must be right. It's who I am. It's part of me. And therefore they dismiss the other person and they were discourteous to them in terms of the Talmudic discourse, the arguments, the engagement, the narrative that they were having. And because they were on such a lofty level, on such pedestals, the higher you are, the harder you fall. And therefore we all know that great people, we expect more from them. We only have to look to the royal family. And therefore they were examined, their actions were scrutinized, and that disrespect that they showed one to another led to their demise. So the key thing that we see is that even if somebody else didn't have the same opinion of themselves or may not be on the same level as you, right? Good is good enough sometimes if a person is trying, right? And one of the things that Rabbi Akiva students had to learn, and Rabbi Akiva rebuilt, good morning, Carol. We were wondering where you were. We were going to send out a search party across the internet. So one of the things that Rabbi Akiva students learned, there were 5 that remained, and he went on to build a great dynasty again, was that the principle that Rabbi Akiva says is to love your neighbor as yourself. Isn't that ironic? The very person that's telling his students, love your neighbor as yourself, is the one whose students were so discourteous and disrespectful one to another. And I think that the answer to the conundrum is that this principle that Rabbi Akiva taught, he only brought it as a focal point, brought it to the fore after this tragedy, after losing all these students. The emphasis initially was all about what? Was about excelling, moving forwards, let's accomplish more. And if it meant that other people came in the way and they seemed to be opposing our opinion, then we crushed their opinion. We crushed them. because we believe that we are right. It is one thing, and it is so important to be passionate about what you believe in, about your beliefs, about what you've learned, about your Judaism. To be passionate, if you're not passionate, it simply becomes more and more diluted, and then it disappears. It falls through your fingers. So if there is no passion, if there is no love, if there is no connection to what you are learning, if it's just theoretical or it's just something that from a bygone era that my grandparents used to do, if it's no longer an integral part of who you are, then it's going to disappear. But on the other hand, when we do have concepts, when we do see people with long coats and curly whirlies, and that we see them with payers and they've got different beliefs to us, and whatever it is, right? How do we interact with them? Can we have a civil conversation? Can we agree to disagree? Can we park our differences, be it with somebody to the right or somebody to the left? I feel that more and more our community is becoming segmented. We don't mix, right? Does somebody from the right ever come to our shul? Does somebody from the left ever come to our shul? We live in our community with people that are all the same, Jewish people that are more or less, we mix, that are all the same, right, as ourselves. And I feel that that means we find that we mix birds of a feather with people that are more alike, having the same opinions as ourselves. That's unhealthy. What is healthy is when we have discussion, when we have the ability to disagree, to hear different perspectives. I'm just learning psychology, and you can hear about Freud and Winnicott and all the different, slightly different opinions. And that's the beauty, that's the color in life. If we just want to go through looking at life with one opinion, mixing with people that are all of the same conviction as ourselves, we will end up leading a very boring, grey life. So we have to have confidence and self-belief in ourselves. And when somebody says something that we disagree with, we can say, I hear what you have to say. Let me share with you my opinion. And you can have a discussion. We have so much discussion in the Talmud, so much discussion after the Talmud, and all is done with the utmost respect. That was the lesson that we learned from Rabbi Akiva. It is a lesson that we learned from Rabbi Akiva's students, and it's something that we would do well to heed. Wishing everyone a good day. We'll conclude with a memorial prayer. Adon Olamim Zacha Es Nishmais Leah Bas Faivel Rosh Hashanah Rosh Yaakov Shmuel Caleb Bas Henach Yom Yochid Ben Moshe Eliezer Shmuel Ben Yosef Yisrael Malka Bas Binyamin Aryeh Ben Shimon Avram Ben Mordechai Ben Moshe Katla Shlomo Yechia Ben Yeshua Levi Shalchu Lilamam Vegan Eden Temenu Chasam Lachim Balarachamim Yasrim Zezek Kanafam Lalamim ויצור וחסר שסם ענה אינך לסם ויענוכו בשלום משכבם ונאמר אמן. Lastly, refuah shlema for all those who are unwell. Mi shaberach avosenu Avram Yisrael Yaakov Moshe Aaron David Shlomo Yivarach Rapes Acholim Bavo Shalom Mispalim Bavo Ram Bez Chazak Kadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachim Aleihem Lachem Olefosam Mishlach Lem Refuah Neshmaim Lacholim Besor Shacho Yisrael Refuah Sanefesh Refuah Saguf Hashavos Mokarev ונאמר amen. So therefore, when we are asking people, we are open to hearing their opinions. When we speak to our children and they tell us what they got, it's all about what it meant for them, not about what it meant in relation to other kids in the class. And in terms of ourselves, we should be comfortable in our own skins and be willing to hear difference of opinions. You know, Eleanor Roosevelt famously said, she said as follows. She said, life is too short not to learn from the mistakes of others. The brilliant Eleanor Roosevelt. So we would do well to listen to others, to learn from others, to accept difference. If you are secure in who you are, then you don't have to pull up the drawbridge and not hear different opinions. Life is so much richer and more colorful when we are open to meeting different people and hearing different opinions. It doesn't have to change who we are, but we can become better as a result. Wishing you all well. A reminder, tomorrow night is the KLBD Roadshow, a real coup together, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. In the meantime, see you tomorrow, same time, same place. All the best. Have a great